Is it only the women on here who get hassled about being child-free by breeders? I'm in my 30s, I'm a child-free man. No one has ever mentioned it. I'm thinking people are just massively sexist and expect women to have kids, but men can do what they want. Hey everyone, welcome back to Lives on Reddit. Don't forget to subscribe to be a for lifer. Whenever my husband gets asked if he has children and answers no, it's end of discussion. Me, I'm not that lucky. Same, and if they do ask why, and he says because he hates kids, they just accept it. No one ever called him a heartless monster with no love in his heart for saying he doesn't want kids. Meanwhile, I get put on trial. My boyfriend is shocked whenever I tell him about a bingo from a coworker. Since we work together, he knows them personally as well. He asks me things like, well, why are you telling them we don't want kids? It's not really their business. Why bring it up? And I'm like, I never bring it up. Other people ask me when we're having kids and I tell them we're not. He's shocked that people who barely know me ask me stuff like that because they've never broached the subject with him at all. They don't ask him if he's having kids or when, and so they don't have a chance to bingo him. He'd been there for 3 years when I started and never once got asked, whereas I got most of the bingos within my first month. Luckily, I'm on medical leave for my bilateral staphyloidectomy, so hopefully when I get back, people get the hint that no, I'm not changing my mind. Ugh, I get it. We worked together for years, so most people knew my stance before my boyfriend and I got together. But apparently they kept waiting for us to announce joyful news any day. 9 years on and we're still child-free. I'm a 27-year-old man and I don't feel the pressure from society. The different expectations on men and women are horrible. It's definitely because women are expected to have a deep maternal instinct, and when they deviate from that, people think there's something wrong. While men aren't expected to be all that interested in children, so it's less unusual. Yeah, literally saw people call women who don't want children broken. The frick is that supposed to mean? Most of the time, they don't even know the reason why they don't want any. Could be a lot, but always quick to judge. My husband is 37, and while he does get asked, he never gets hassled. Sometimes those same people come after me non-stop and won't take no for an answer. Won't take no for an answer? Jeesh, why do people care so much about other people's lives? Does it matter so much if you have kids? For real, I will never understand that. They ask him, he says no, and they take it as a manly decision. Yes, he's the one with masculine capabilities to make rational decisions, and therefore he must be listened to. They ask me, I say no, and the reaction is like, oh, poor woman, and her small lady brain. She's obviously incapable of making such big decisions, so we must help her on the path of procreation. I think women are harassed more by non-family members and perfect strangers than men. Men tend to be harassed by their immediate family members because the family name and all that. And honestly, unless someone's last name is Vanderbilt or Kennedy, etc., what the heck difference does it make? I'm sure the world will survive if the Clarks from Idaho don't have kids. We're in our 50s, and I was surprised how strangers and people I'd never meet again seem to care so much when I said we're not having children. My husband has no memory of anyone hassling him except for relatives. I received more downright hostility from his parents for not wanting children than he did. It's as if they blamed me for not giving them grandchildren rather than their own son who never wanted children. Once his brother had a child, they finally accepted our choice. Transition from female to male can 100% confirm this bias exists. I used to not even be able to look at a baby without someone dropping it on me and asking me when I'm having my own. Now people are shocked when I interact with kids or want to hold a baby. I like kids, I just don't want them. My experience of being female was very frustrating with the constant expectation that I should bear children, even by strangers. In the past 2 years though, I have not been asked once about my plans to have children. I'm a 25-year-old dude who had a vasectomy. I don't consider it hassling. I thoroughly enjoy discussions with breeders. I get bingoed regularly, and when I tell them I've had a vasectomy, I am always met with shock and horror. Frankly, my vasectomy was a tough one. Usually goes well, but please go for it if you're considering, worth it. And I'm actually really proud of having endured it, so I love bringing it up to persistent breeders. I relish at the chance to hear them try to convince me I'll change my mind, and I love to hear them talk about how much I'm missing out on. I'm a 25-year-old homeowner with the love of my life, and it's just the two of us. I talk about how many travel plans we have and how much we get to go and do and how often we get to spoil each other. Gosh, be careful. How will you afford bills? They say. Oh, we're covered well enough financially, barring major emergency burdens. Because we're not parents, we can afford to do whatever we want, I happily say. I always see a little spark in them after that. Always a few that wonder, what if? I'm a 57-year-old man and I have never been bingoed. My relatives always respected the personal decisions of others. When I was working, my coworkers never hassled me or anyone else about it. Many of them were child-free themselves. Men and women, some of them older than me. I'm an atheist, so no religious pressures. And my small circle of friends never hassled me. They tended to be child-free too. My lady friend is my age and has an adult daughter in her late 30s with 3 kids and lives 700 miles away. I have met her twice in the 16 years I have been with her mom. Literally a conversation my husband told me he had at work. Coworker. You got any kids? Husband. Nope. You got a wife? Yep. Good for you, man. Can you imagine? 36-year-old male here, and I agree with you. Women have it rough. When they want to use birth control, they're not allowed to do it properly in most countries. When they decide to be child-free, there is so much stigma. For men, it depends on your culture. Since I have an Indian background, I get harassed a lot. But when I push back, they stand down. But if I was a brown woman, I can imagine how bad society would treat me for being child-free. You don't need to be liberal or feminist to say this, but yeah, it's crappy. There are double standards, and women have it bad when it comes to societal and familial pressure for choosing child-free. I'm a French dude, and I'm consistently trying to stop my breeder friends pressuring me about the day I'm having children. I can tell from experience that men are expected to grow up at one point, or that I don't have a choice in the matter, that somehow my girlfriend will convince me and I'll have to breed. At one point, I might just lose my temper and tell them to frick off. Just thinking about it makes me mad. What the frick is up with men wanting kids? As a child-free male, I'm amazed to hear stories where a relationship ends because the guy is the one who wants kids. What planet am I on? If you meet a girl who doesn't want kids, thank your lucky stars. What am I missing? I think partially why my marriage ended was my ex wanted kids, and I knew I'd 100% shoot that down. I had previous issues with the idea of marriage in general, but I did change my mind about that, and he thought maybe I'd change my mind about kids. Here's the thing, you can't divorce your kids, but I did divorce him. Less than a year after our divorce was finalized, he had a kid. He had previously stated he didn't care either way, but I remember our actual first date, he saw a guy with kids and said it made him think about the future. That's when I brought up my viewpoint and was planning to escape. And being young and naive, I believed the don't care either way idea he had. Instead of being honest about what he wanted, I think he was just worried he'd lose me if he brought it up. So instead of accepting that, he really got depressed, withdrawn, and neglectful. I think his whole thing was he flunked out of 5 schools in the span of 6 years, was in financial ruin. I paid for most of our bills via 2 to 3 jobs at the time, got divorced, and just in general felt like a failure. So instead of trying something else, since the other wasn't working, he decided to procreate instead. It's not a mentality I understand, but now he has a job that he never previously showed interest in, construction, to help pay bills, and as far as I know, is still in financial turmoil. And it's only going downhill from here due to having a kid. Same for me. Our marriage ended for several reasons, but a huge one was that he decided he wanted kids when we were already on the rocks, and I told him I wasn't popping out a baby until I could trust him to take care of a fish tank without my supervision. For my part, I had always assumed children were inevitable, and that I'd know when the time was right. That time never came, and by the time I was 30, I was solidly in my child-free camp. We had divorced when I was 25 after only 2 years of marriage, and he got remarried a couple years later and has 2 kids now. Best for both of us. Whoa, 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 whoa. Don't leave. Subscribe. Be a for lifer. Ooh.